Hey everybody, it's June 4th. This is Living Power, your online Bible study. We are walking through the Bible in a year, and I want to welcome you to this lesson where we are focusing on the language of love, and we are talking about the Song of Songs, which is believed to have been written by Solomon. Before we get started, I wanted to mention to you and welcome halfway around the world, a lady named Evelyn who has just reached out to me. She and her husband pastor a church. It's in the Philippines, and she leads the women's ministry. Their church does not have a computer. They do not have a computer, but they go into a public internet cafe, and they said they found our Bible study and they listened to it in the public internet cafe. And that is so exciting to me, and I just wanted to say hello, Evelyn, and hello to your husband, and encourage you to watch the videos whenever you can. She said she's learning about the Bible and learning to understand it. And certainly God will use this and is using us to help her and them in their ministry. So it is very exciting to have this affirmation that we're being used by God all the way around the world. So Evelyn, I want to welcome you to the study and just tell you how excited we are that you are here. This lesson today is entitled The Most Excellent Song, and that's because that's what Song of Songs actually means, and it was believed to have been written by Solomon, but we're not going to study it today from his perspective, although we will be referring to him during the video today from time to time. This book in the Bible is really about the language of love. It is about the marriage covenant between a man and a woman. So we are interpreting it in that way. We believe that it was written in that way. It's not a picture of love outside of the marriage covenant, but it is a picture of the beauty of love expressed and shared within the marriage covenant. It does celebrate the joy and physical passion of married love as God intended it to be. So Solomon, we're going to learn this week, did end up with 700 wives and 300 concubines. And in the end of Song of Songs, it kind of touches on his philanthropies, should I say, with all of these women. And the book comes to a conclusion that is not necessarily the right way, but this book, the Song of Songs, rejoices in one woman and one man coming together and sharing the physical love within the marriage. And so what I thought I would do today, the book is written a little bit graphic, but it's written a little bit cryptic also. And so I studied a couple of commentaries to understand really what it's talking about between this woman and this man. So I thought I would share with you just an overview of the story, because there is a story here. And then I want us to talk about why is this book in the Bible? And I have 3 possible reasons for that. And then, of course, we'll talk about an application at the end. So let's just quickly go through the story, and we'll kind of cover it in an outline. The book begins, of course, with banter between the young woman and the young man, and it kind of goes back and forth, so you have to kind of pay, like a play, you have to kind of pay attention as to who's talking. At the very beginning, the woman, it says she prefers light skin, but she is a dark-skinned woman. And evidently in those times, it was preferable. It was considered very, very beautiful to have lighter skin, even though women are beautiful of all skin tones, of course. And that was in verse 6 at the very beginning, so that's what it means in her preferring lighter skin. She is absorbed in her husband. And the house in verse 17 they mention a house. I just wanted you to know that it's considered a luxury to have a house of cedar. So that's referred there in verse 17. In 2:2, the young man only has eyes for her. I think a song was written about that. He only has eyes for her, and he is completely absorbed in his wife, in her beauty, and just absorbed in her. And that, of course, is a beautiful picture of a man's attentiveness towards his wife. Very good advice here in chapter 2, verse 7. It says, do not awaken love until the time is right. And certainly that means we should save ourselves until we are married. Very good advice. In chapter 3, she's having a bad dream. She thinks she's lost him. And the aspects of the woman's beauty provokes a profound emotional response in the man. So you'll kind of understand that there. The pinnacle of them coming together physically is represented at least twice in 5:1 and in 6:2. So you'll understand what's happening there. In 6:13, her friends come into the picture, and we see that the woman is married, so the friends are thinking they might not see her quite as much. Certainly that happens when we get married. We become very involved in the marriage, and our priorities change. And so some of the friends and the things that we did before we were married, we just simply don't have time for once we're married. So the friends are realizing they might not see her as much. In 8:8, we see that the woman is thinking about her younger sister, and they are hoping that she remains chaste before or until she gets married, and so they're thinking about her younger sister and how they can protect her until she gets married. And then in 8:11, this is where they mention Solomon, and they kind of mention him in sort of a derogatory tone. I mean, not real bad, but they're talking about him and his extravagance with women, and they are deciding that they are saving themselves for each other and that there will only be one man and woman in their life. And so in 8:11 you can read that, and the difference between Solomon's decisions in having so many women. He was so philanthropic with his activities with women, but they're deciding to live differently. At the end, the bride and the groom call on everyone to rejoice with them because they have found true love. And true love is a wonderful thing to behold, and certainly something to be celebrated. Now, I hope that gives you just a little bit of an outline as to the story that's going on. Why is this in the Bible? I'd like to give you 3 possible answers for this. The first is that this experience, the physical and emotional aspects of love within the marriage covenant, are worthy of the Bible's attention because it's part of the human experience. It was intended. It's a beautiful thing, and it was certainly intended by God when He established marriage. And what was the first command that He gave? Be fruitful and multiply within the marriage covenant, of course. I think this proves that it's a topic for Christians too. It's certainly not something that we don't have to talk about. It's something that we get to talk about because it is so foundational to our lives. So the Bible teaches us about life, and so this is a part of life, so it's just natural that the Bible would have something to say about the physical aspects of marriage. Here's a second possible reason. It speaks about love and its purity and its beauty. Love cannot be bought. And I think that's the conclusion that they're coming to in chapter 8. Solomon pursued love in this way through many foreign marriages. He was trying to make political alliances to protect the country in marrying these foreign wives. And I think the conclusion is that love cannot be bought. Love cannot be traded. More does not necessarily mean better. That's the conclusion in chapter 8. And of course, we see the encouragement to save yourself, both men and women. It is right for both to do that, saving themselves for marriage. And I think we see that the cheapening of love when it's traded indiscriminately. That is not how God intended, and we sell ourselves short when we don't see this as something to be saved and something very pure and holy. Here's a third possible reason. You know, the whole book, Song of Songs, does not mention God particularly. And it wasn't really included in the Old Testament until about AD 70. But I believe they felt it was important to include it in the Old Testament from a spiritual perspective. Spiritually, it teaches and portrays God's love for His people. And I think that if we see God as the lover of our soul, and we really understand the Bible as a picture of God wooing Himself to us. God loves us so much, and He delights, absolutely delights in having a relationship with us. It's really unfathomable. It's really hard to understand that. But God's love for you, God's love for me is so great, probably deeper than the oceans, and farther than, the furthest star in the galaxy is the way I like to think of it, that this is a true picture of Christ wooing His church to Him, wooing His people Israel to Him, and this is spiritually we can understand God's love for us on a different level. So here's the application. As I was reading this, I was thinking about my husband, and I was thinking about my treatment towards my husband. And, we've been married 20 years, and it's important to keep the marriage relationship and the love alive in a marriage. Wouldn't you agree? So my question to you today is, how are you focusing on your spouse? Do you still delight in each other? What do you think about when you think about your spouse? When you're alone and you're thinking about that person, what are the kind of thoughts that you're thinking about? When you see him or her, do you delight in him or her? A lot of times we think love is a feeling, but really love is an action, and we can control our thoughts, and we can channel our thoughts to think a certain way about a person. So I am reinvigorated to think such positive and loving thoughts towards my husband, and I would encourage you to be the same and do the same around your spouse. So do you need to reevaluate how you think and how you're treating your spouse? Do you see beauty? How are you behaving towards him or her? Also, we can also reinvigorate our love for God in the reading today. Do you see God as the lover of your soul? And if you don't understand Him wooing you to Him, could you perhaps look at God's love for you in a new way today? God loves you so much, and He wants to have a relationship, an intimate relationship with you. So as you learn to worship Him in spirit and in truth, just think about that as you love Him also through your spirit. Well, I hope this has helped you to understand this very special and intimate book, the Song of Songs, and perhaps to see love in a reinvigorating way, in a new and an exciting way. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. Tomorrow we're going to continue with the history books, and we're going to touch on the book of Ecclesiastes coming up in the next couple of days. I hope you will join me. Well, blessings to you and your family. Shalom until we see each other again tomorrow.